You register a WeChat account for your Singapore business, so you can finally reach the Chinese-speaking customers who live inside that app. And for a week, everything looks fine. You add a few contacts, you post to Moments, you reply to a customer or two. Then one morning, the account is frozen. It asks you to have a friend confirm your identity, and you realize the number, the phone, and the way you set the whole thing up were the problem all along. The account was never really yours because you built it on a foundation the platform never trusted. For context, I run more than 100 real cloud Android phones in Singapore, genuine Samsung handsets on real carrier SIMs, each with its own persistent Singapore mobile IP, its own ADB endpoint, and a live view you open in the browser. Teams that serve Chinese-speaking customers keep one account per phone on this farm, so here is the verdict upfront. WeChat is the strictest messenger there is. One number, one account, one device, and it treats emulators and app cloning as fraud on site. A real cloud phone gives WeChat the genuine device it needs before it will trust the account. But it does not shortcut WeChat's own onboarding, and I am going to be honest about both halves. Start with why a Singapore business even needs this. WeChat is not really a chat app. It is the front door to a customer. It is messaging, payments, a Moments feed, and thousands of mini programs. And for a huge slice of Chinese-speaking people, it is simply how you contact a business. A cross-border seller, a tuition center, a property agent, a clinic that serves mainland patients, a restaurant chasing tourist bookings, all of them find the same thing. The customer will not email and will not call. The customer asks to add you on WeChat, and if you are not reachable there, you are not reachable. The legitimate reasons to run more than one account are ordinary. An agency runs a service account for each brand it manages, each with its own voice and its own customers. A company keeps a brand account separate from a founder account, because a founder speaking as a person reaches people a logo never will. A group runs one account per business unit. The clinic separate from the pharmacy, the tour desk separate from the hotel. What every one of these shares is that each account stands for a genuinely distinct thing with its own audience. That is the kind of multi-account work this video is about. A pile of interchangeable accounts blasting the same message is a different animal. WeChat crushes it without mercy, and I am not going to show you how to do that. Now the rules, stated plainly, because WeChat is strict in ways Western apps are not. Every account binds to a phone number, one account, and even the second account slot the app added years ago still needs its own separate number. Real name verification and WeChat Pay lean on a mainland bank card, so an overseas business usually lives with limited payment features until it sorts that out. And the compliant business tools, official accounts, and enterprise WeChat are their own products with their own verification and their own paperwork. None of this is hidden. One account equals one identity, and the operators who respect that are the ones still standing a year later. Registration is where overseas teams feel the first wall. A brand new account, especially one born on a number and a device WeChat has never seen, is often asked to have an established existing user scan a code and vouch for it before it can finish activating. That voucher has to be a real account in good standing that has not vouched for someone else too recently. I will not pretend a cloud phone removes this step because it does not. What the phone gives you is a clean, genuine device, so the account you do activate is not fighting a hardware flag on top of the vouch. You still need a legitimate person to help it across that line. The phone number itself is the part people underrate. The number that registers a WeChat account is tied to it for life, and it is the number WeChat texts when it wants to check that the account is still really yours. Let that SIM go dead and you have quietly orphaned the account, because the day a freeze asks for a code, no code can arrive. On my phones, the SIM sits seated in the handset permanently, so the number that opened the account years ago still answers verification on the same day it is asked. That one boring habit prevents more account loss than any clever trick ever will. Here is why virtual devices and the usual shortcuts get accounts killed. WeChat spent years fighting group control farms, rooms of emulators, and cloned apps, driving thousands of accounts, so its risk control is openly hostile to all of it. An emulator has tails, missing sensors, virtual hardware identifiers, impossible sameness across instances. App cloning that runs two WeChats on one phone is a tail. A rooted device is a tail. An account born into any of that can start life frozen and nobody sends you a warning. Your messages simply stop landing. A real handset has none of those tells because there is nothing virtual about it, and that is the entire argument for real hardware. So the model that actually holds is one account on one real phone. The account registers on that handset, lives on it, chats from it, posts its moments from it, and never wanders onto a second device. Its number stays seated in that same phone. It never shares hardware with another brand's account and never logs in on a laptop tool on the side. On my farm, each phone also keeps its own persistent Singapore mobile IP on a real carrier SIM, so the device story and the network story match day after day. When 6 brand accounts live on 6 real phones, a bad week for one brand stays that brand's problem, because WeChat has never once seen the 6 of them touch anything in common. Be clear about what the cloud phone is for. It is the customer desk, not the film set. The real-world work, meeting clients, shooting a product, running an event, happens where it always did. The phone is where the account does its job, replying to customers, managing groups, posting to moments, taking mini program orders, sending the broadcast the customer actually wanted. All of it runs through the browser view of that one device, so your team can reach the account without the SIM ever leaving the rack. WeChat rewards accounts that behave like present, responsive humans, and the device the whole team can open turns that presence into a normal shift instead of a hope. The Singapore IP story matters more here than on a Western app. A Singapore business reaching Singapore and regional Chinese-speaking customers appearing every day from a persistent Singapore mobile IP tells a consistent story, and consistency is exactly what a suspicious platform rewards. What hurts an account is drift, surfacing from a different country one week and a data center range the next, which invites the checks a stable account never sees. A persistent carrier IP per phone means each account's network history reads like a real resident phone in Singapore, because that is precisely what it is. Now the honest part about freezes. WeChat suspends accounts for behavior, aggressive adding of strangers, mass identical messages, keyword-stuffed spam, and payment tricks. And once an account trips that line, the freeze belongs to the account, not the hardware under it. A clean real device keeps the platform's device level doubts off your back, but it will never buy back trust that bad behavior already spent. When a freeze does hit, the recovery path is often exactly the friend verification we talked about. Real contacts confirming you are real. Slow down, fix the pattern, and let the account recover on its own weight. If you run accounts for clients, run separation like it will be audited one day. The number belongs to the client where possible, so it leaves with them when they go. Credentials sit in a per-client vault, never in one shared sheet the whole office can read. You keep a written map of which phone holds which account for which client, and you keep it current, and you offboard properly, hand over the account, transfer the number, wipe the phone. The device layer is what makes all of that enforceable instead of aspirational, because each client team gets the browser view of only its own phones, and the phone gets logged through the API before anyone touches it, so nobody grabs a client's account mid-task. Expect some friction and plan for it rather than panicking at it. Young overseas accounts get frozen more readily and lean harder on that first vouch. Verification prompts will arrive, so keep every SIM reachable and answer them the same day. Payment features stay limited until real name and the card are sorted, so do not promise a client full WeChat Pay on day one. New accounts hit adding and messaging limits early, which is normal aging and not punishment, so the answer is never to push harder against it. Treat each as expected weather, not a sign the whole approach is wrong. Let me be plain about what a real device will not do for you. It will not write Mandarin that reads native. It will not conjure WeChat Pay for a company with no mainland paperwork. It will not summon a voucher out of thin air, and it will not resurrect an account that earned its ban honestly. What it gives you is a foundation that never becomes the problem, real hardware the platform has no reason to doubt, a persistent local IP, one clean home per account, and always on access for the team that runs them. It is still only the foundation, and the way you behave decides everything above it. Didn't. The reason teams do not just keep a drawer of real phones for this is that a device shelf is a grinding job of its own. Every account wants its own number that costs money every month. Every handset needs charging without cooking its battery, needs its updates, and needs to stay reachable from wherever your team works. Do that across a handful of carriers, kept alive so a frozen account can always answer a verification, and you have hired a full-time role that has nothing to do with the business you were trying to run. That is the whole reason cloud.one exists. Real Samsung handsets in Singapore, on dedicated hardware, each with its own persistent Singapore mobile IP on a real carrier SIM, Singtel, StarHub, M1 or Vivify, across prepaid and postpaid lines. Not an emulator, not a data center address, not a laptop wearing a Singapore label, a genuine phone that WeChat has no reason to doubt because it is a genuine phone. You watch each one live in the browser, reach it over its own AdBeep endpoint, and list or lock any device through the API. So one account per phone works at agency scale without anyone ever sharing hardware. Start at Cloud Unbill Ninta, use code YT30 on your first month. So, to recap, WeChat is the strictest messenger there is. One number, one account, one device, and it treats emulators and app cloning as fraud. Multiple accounts are legitimate when each stands for a real distinct brand or business unit. Registration on an overseas number needs a genuine voucher and the SIM kept alive forever. Give each account its own real phone on its own persistent Singapore mobile IP. Run your customer desk from that device. Keep client separation audit ready and let honest behavior carry the account's weight. The device protects the account. How you use it decides whether it grows. Build accounts the platform has no reason to doubt. Keep every use of them legitimate and rule-following, and let the boring real foundation do the quiet work of keeping them alive. I'll see you in the next one.